Hello and welcome to the Morning Bean, show not about coffee. Instead, we enjoy our coffee while discussing current events. I'm your host, Denny London, and today's episode is called Fauci Retiring, Stelter Firing, and Democracy Dying. Before we jump into the downfall of society and possibly the next pandemic, please consider giving the show a follow and a 5-star review. It really helps those crazy robot algorithms. Algorithms. First and foremost, my apologies for being a day late and $1 short with the show posting. My schedule at work changed and it just interfered with my normal podcast preparation. However, going forth, I promise we will be consistent once again. On today's show, we'll discuss how Dark Brandon has been on an absolute tear lately. They're stacking up some wins, people. We'll discuss what those wins are and if they'll actually help the Democrats hold power after the midterm elections. As always, we'll have You Probably Shouldn't Tweet It and the news ratings, but first, 3 quick ones. Actually, there was some breaking news today. Let me just read this tweet first from the Daily Wire. I'm not going to cover this in depth on today's episode, possibly next week, though. The Daily Wire says, Zuckerberg, FBI pushed Facebook to crack down on misinformation before Hunter Biden laptop story was published. Coincidence? I think not. Now time for 3 quick ones. Our first quick one, Fauci retiring. Ladies and gentlemen, Lord Fauci has announced that at the end of this year, 2022, he'll be retiring from the NIH. His goal is to pursue other endeavors such as reading, basket weaving, camping, gain-of-function research, Chinese checkers, baking, and possibly spreading another pandemic. Please be strong and hold back your tears. And in honor of the science, I'd like to play you some of his greatest hits, courtesy of a YouTube channel called Milk Bar TV. You heard that right, folks. Milk Bar TV. This clip was incredibly hard to find when I was doing my search, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
What about a month or so, or 2 or 3 ago, when people were saying, you don't really need to wear a mask? People were saying,
people should not be walking around with masks. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask.
On the part of the health providers who needed it, we were thinking we would run out of masks and other things for them. So the recommendation was not to wear a mask.
You would recommend locking down schools if you had to do it all over again?
Well, again, it's first of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down.
I recommended to the president that we shut the country down.
Why you're asking me about lockdowns, because there were not complete lockdowns in this country.
We can't stay locked down.
There were not lockdowns. I have always said that the high likelihood is that this is a natural occurrence.
Are you still confident that it developed naturally?
No, actually, I'm not convinced.
NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Statements made on repeated occasions.
It is not gain-of-function.
By the NIAID director, Dr. Fauci, have been untruthful.
I have not lied before Congress. I have never lied.
Because they are demonstrably false.
Oh, if she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected.
Many scientists are beginning to believe that a vaccine against AIDS may be impossible to make and too dangerous to test.
If you take it and then a year goes by and everybody's fine, then you say, okay, that's good. Now let's give it to 500 people, and then a year goes by and everything's fine. You say, well, then now let's give it to thousands of people, and then you find out that it takes 12 years for all hell to break loose, and then what have you done?
I never even considered for a moment of resigning.
Never considered it for a moment?
Not even for a second. I'd have to laugh at that. I should be prosecuted.
A little bit of a longer clip, but it really does show the hypocrisy that Fauci has pushed on the American people. Hopefully the show doesn't get taken down because of that clip, but I think that they're not as censoring stuff anymore because they know that America knows it was complete bullshit. But honestly, it reminds you of the good old days, huh? I'm sure his retirement has nothing to do with Republicans potentially taking over Congress in 2023. And I'm also sure it has nothing to do with them wanting to hold Fauci accountable for his lies about COVID-19. Seriously, people, this man has spent over 50 years being a public servant. Give him a break. Let him take his $350,000 a year retirement in peace. Obviously, I'm being facetious. He will be held accountable. People don't forget. Our second quick one, Stelter firing. It's over. CNN finally canceled my favorite Sunday morning comedy show, Reliable Sources with Brian I Bang Chick Stelter. Forbes reports. By killing off reliable sources and firing host Brian Stelter, CNN hands a win to its worst critics. CNN boss Chris Litch has a vision for the network that has no room for the network's longest running show, Reliable Sources, which marked its 30th anniversary back in March, or its host, media correspondent Brian Stelter. We are proud of what Brian and his team accomplished over the years, and we're confident their impact and influence will long outlive the show, said CNN's Amy Entelis. What's with these last names, people? In a statement released Thursday, the last edition of Reliable Sources will air on Sunday. Let me read that quote again. Listen carefully. We are proud of what Brian and his team accomplished over the years, and we're confident their impact and influence will long outlive the show. Talk about a backhanded compliment. The only thing Brian and his team accomplished was spreading propaganda, misinformation, fake news, and destroying a 3-decade-old TV show. Quite a feat, if you ask me. Their impact and influence will definitely be felt for a long time. After Trump took office, CNN essentially became the Orange Man Bad Network. In fact, on the final show, it took approximately 6 minutes for them to drop the T word. Since Joseph R. E. done being a tyrant yet Biden took office in January of 2021, Stelter's viewership has declined by 72%. 72%? Yikes. And I'm sorry to hear that, B. I just want you to know, unlike these hoes, I was loyal, and I at least watch a little bit every Sunday. Many are asking what's next for Brian. Here's my prediction. He'll be reunited with fellow propagandist and former CNN host Chris, do you even lift bro Cuomo, and offered a job at News Nation. I honestly can't think of a better storybook ending. Our final quick one, democracy dying. From the Washington Examiner, a new poll and threats to democracy. A new survey from NBC News has some sobering results for Democrats who have been growing more optimistic in recent weeks about their prospects in November's midterm elections. Voter unhappiness with the direction of the country is still high, and President Joe Biden's job approval rating is still low. The broad themes of the poll are along the lines of which was discussed in last Friday's newsletter. We did not read that newsletter, which had the headline, Biden is still dragging his party down. But the part of the survey that seemed really striking was what appeared to be an extraordinary shift in voters' priorities. The question was simple. What is the most important issue facing the country? This is how NBC's Chuck Todd reported the answer. For the first time ever, Todd said, when asked what is the most important issue facing this country, the top answer was not on an economic issue. It was the threats to democracy, higher than cost of living, or jobs, or guns, or even abortion. I don't know if you've ever heard Chuck Todd, but it always sounds like he's asking a question, which makes sense because he has no idea what the hell he's talking about. I went to this survey, and here's the full breakdown. The top 5 now, their latest survey, versus the top 5 back in May. Top 5 now. Number 5, climate change. Then we got immigration, the situation at the border, jobs in the economy, cost of living, and as they mentioned in the article, threats to democracy. Back in May, number 5 was immigration and the situation at the border. Number 4 was abortion, then voting rights and election integrity, jobs in the economy, and then number 1 was cost of living, which makes sense. Now, of the 21% who named threats to democracy as the nation's most important problem right now, just over half, 53% were Democrats, 32% were Republicans, and 11% were independents. There's a reason threats to democracy wasn't included in previous polls. It's honestly too broad of a topic. Each group would choose that as an issue for different reasons. For example, Democrats would choose it because of Trump and America First candidates taking over in 2022 and 2024. And then Republicans would choose it for election integrity reasons. Surprisingly, This poll gave NBC a lot of publicity over the weekend, and I think they accomplished their goal here. Hence why people were talking about it. But they weren't the only ones that jumped into the democracy is dying narrative from Politico. There's a huge divide among Democrats over how hard to campaign for democracy. However, I don't think we should read too much into this. The main issues in this upcoming election are still the economy, inflation, and jobs. Now on to our main story. Let's start off with an original poem written, produced, and recorded by Denny London. That's me. In the Morning Bean studio, aka our spare bedroom. Enjoy. Who is the terror that sniffs in the night? Joe Biden, of course, enemy of the right. Who causes the problems and claims them as wins? I'm talking about none other than Dark Brandon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't forget to tell a friend to subscribe to the podcast for more gems just like that. Now, on Wednesday, Joe Biden finally came through on a campaign promise. Student loan relief, baby. Well, kind of. Vox has the story for us. Biden's big new student loan forgiveness plan explained. President Joseph "Are you done being a tyrant yet?" Biden announced his administration's long-awaited student loan forgiveness plan Wednesday, saying it will forgive $10,000 in student loans for borrowers who earned less than $125,000 during the pandemic. People who received Pell Grants, grants to low-income students, while they were enrolled in college, will be eligible to have $20,000 in debt relief. $10,000 is a lot of money, but it's scientifically proven that $20,000 is even more money. At this point, I head over to studentaid.gov. I want to find out how you would qualify for a Pell Grant, because that was it didn't give enough information in my opinion. When I got to studentaid.gov, I got this message. Studentaid.gov is receiving high volume of visitors. You will be able to proceed to the site momentarily. Thanks for your patience. I waited about 20 minutes and did not get into the website. You know it's a big deal when the masses overwhelm a website like this, one that has to do with their student loans. Now back to the article. The move will be enough to wipe out some student debt entirely. 15 million of the 43 million people with federal loans owe less than $10,000, and those borrowers are typically the most likely to fail to pay back their loans. In all, the plan will eliminate student debt for about 20 million people, according to an analysis provided by the Education Department, and decrease monthly payments by an average of $250 for borrowers with a remaining balance who are on a standard 10-year payment plan. I'm going to be 100% transparent with you folks. This technically will wipe out the rest of my student loan debt. I'm not counting my eggs before they hatch, though. Apparently, the government is doing all the paperwork for you, which is something I absolutely do not trust. We all know that nowadays money isn't real. It's just a piece of paper. They print it, they put a little number on it, bada bing, bada boom. There's no gold backing it. The fact that Biden was able to approve this without going through Congress is unconstitutional in itself. Congress is the keeper and controller of the purse, not the president. Please see the Constitution for details. So why did this happen? Well, for the same reason the raid on Mar-a-Lago happened. This is another example of an attempt to sway the American people into voting for the D's in November. Think about it. They're already pushing the narrative that if you vote for an America First candidate, that's a threat to democracy because Orange Man bad, which honestly hasn't been too effective. People know that raid was just political theater and incredibly dangerous to the union. But the student loan relief thing is actually genius. They are tricking Republicans into disagreeing and speaking out against it. Even the official White House Twitter is getting involved. They started off by tweeting, "The administration's student loan proposal will make the student loan system more manageable for current and future borrowers by cutting monthly payments in half for undergraduate loans and providing an easier path to loan forgiveness for public servants." And then they put out 3 tweets after that, one of them saying Congressman Matt Gaetz had $482,321 in PPP loans forgiven, referring back to the pandemic loans. And then Congressman Mike Kelly had almost $1 million. And then finally, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene had $183,504 in PPP loans forgiven. Because those three were speaking out against it. Now keep in mind, they needed these loans because the government shut down the country and closed their businesses. The student loan thing is a little bit different than that. You can't even compare the two. But still, the natural reaction from the American people is going to be, for lack of the better words, piss off. And I can tell you exactly why. Our government has sent close to $60 billion and counting to Ukraine to fight the war versus Russia. And most on the left and right support it. But now, when the money is for the American people, their representatives might speak out against it. This is political suicide. Even Trump is getting involved. He made a statement. Joe Biden and the radical left Democrats have just orchestrated another election-enhancing money grab, this time to the tune of $300 billion. And just like I predicted, it's coming right out of the pockets of the working-class Americans who are struggling the most. Crippling inflation, affordable energy prices, and war. All things that should never have happened. But if that wasn't enough, now Americans are bailing out college administrators who fleeced students and those who opted for degrees there was no way they could afford. America is a nation in decline, and the cliff into oblivion is within sight. Stop voting for Democrats. Make America great again. They're falling for the trap. Bait, set, hook, people. Now, in my opinion, something does need done about our broken education system and student loans. We've bailed out banks, we've bailed out airlines, hell, we've even bailed out other countries. The latest money that we sent over to Ukraine was to pay for their government to keep going, and not only that, but to protect their damn border. It's time for the average American to get a piece of the pie, and right when we are getting a piece of the pie, our idiots in charge, the good guys, are speaking out against it. It drives me nuts. And for now, that's all I got to say about that. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on Twitter, Getter, @DennyLondon. Now on to You Probably Shouldn't Tweet That. This is a returning favorite of mine, Brooklyn Dad. He actually goes by Brooklyn Dad _Defiant on Twitter. He said, a pissed off Dark Brandon dragging the shit out of Marjorie Taylor Greene and MAGA is the best Dark Brandon. Now, first and foremost, sir, I mean, you have an okay beard, but I think you should dye the gray out of that. You look like a fool. Secondly, that is very violent talk. If this was coming from the other side, I mean, this would be all over the news. They would say, oh, MAGA at it again, being all violent, calling for an insurrection. Nonetheless, Brooklyn Dad, nobody takes you seriously. You'll get like 10 replies to this out of the 3 million followers you have, so you probably shouldn't tweet it. And finally, on to the TV ratings, brought to you by the one and only Road MN on Twitter. Our focus, as always, is going to be prime time. This one's from Wednesday, August 24th, 2022, year of our Lord. Starting at the 8 p.m. slot with the homie, Tucker Carlson. He had 3.1 million viewers, capturing 54% of the audience. All in with Chris Hayes at 1.6 million, 29%, and Anderson Cooper 360 had 14% with 813,000 viewers. The 9 p.m. slot with Handy, 2.7 million viewers, 52% of the viewership. Alex Wagner Tonight, 1.6 million, 32%, and CNN Tonight, 14%, 764,000 viewers. And at the 10 p.m. slot, we had The Ingram Angle, 2.3 million viewers, 48%. The Last Word with L. O'Donnell, 1.7 million, 35%. And Don Lemon Tonight, 630,000, 13%. These ratings are important. It's just a weekly reminder that you are the majority. So next time you post on social media, put hashtag We Are The Majority, and don't be afraid to speak your mind. The truth is contagious. Thank you so much for checking out today's show. If you enjoyed it, tell a friend. In fact, I think you and your hypothetical friend should give it a follow. New episodes every Thursday at 8 a.m. Eastern. I know it's Friday, okay? I'm going to fix it next week. We also upload a video a week to the Rumble account at The Morning Bean. Feel free to check out the socials, Getter, Twitter, @DennyLondon. We can continue the conversation there. Anyways, thanks so much for listening, God bless and cue the music.